guys?
Well,
I have to point out immediately what is different with Yah today.
that's the worst thing about having braces, you know? Everyone does that.
Who's that, the real McCoys?
Walter Brennan.
Walter Brennan. You can do quite a Walter
Well,
Brennan.
say, when I first met Rivers, boy, I can't remember when he went around.
Interpreted?
It was a song he had, or actually he didn't sing, he spoke. And it was about old Rivers, about a dog. And he said, how old was I when I first met old Rivers? I can't remember when he went around. It was a big hit in America, all over the world, especially in Russia.
I'll see if I can find it and join that to this at the beginning. Anyway, it's been a week. A little bit under a week since...
Walter Brennan, by the way. He always played the part of an old man, even when he was young. He sort of looked old, and he always played this part of an old man.
Yeah.
And he developed, actually, a very good-looking old man from a grandfather's point of view. He sort of looked the part, you know. And The Real McCoys is one of the big shows he did. So look it up on YouTube. Walter Brennan.
Oh my goodness, the age of our audience, you would not have a clue who we're talking about unless, let's see, I was born in 56 and used to watch The Real McCoy when, so that must have been the 60s, whatever. But yeah, so a lot of you don't know what we're talking about, but let's move right along.
Very likeable fellow.
What have you been doing this week, Jan?
Me?
Why have we been?
Nothing much, just working out the greatest discovery of all time, which ends up pointing to Daniel 4:34, and the word is end, and it is numbers derived from the precession of the equinox of 26,000 years, so call it days, divided by 365, 2424. It gives you the number 7118, which happens to be the age that my stepfather's father was when I was born. That's old Golightly-Marshall. He was 26,000 days old, which lines up with the precession of the equinox, 26,000 years. So when you divide it by how old he was in years, that number is end, and it's found only in Daniel. It's the Ancient of Days that said. And his generation to generation, his kingdom will be from generation forever, from generation to generation, on the earth forever.
So it's been...
It's all to do with Easter Island.
Now, Easter Island, just to prepare you for the PowerPoint that is almost ready for recording.
Give me 10 minutes. Yeah?
All right, okay. Easter Island is hardly a dot on the globe.
It's 63.16 square miles, which is Isaiah 63:1 through to 6, which lines up with the pyramid on Tahiti, which has a base of 23229 square feet. It's 287 by 87 feet. And Cook, remember this, that with the beheading of Charles I, the Jews got back into England and they took over the bank, they took over the Admiralty government, so forth. So the Admiralty was sent out a man by the name of Wallace, Captain Wallace. Now, history, this is one of the things about the Jews I love.
So predictable.
They alter everything, right? So what I did, I had all this downloaded from the library in Port Alberni, Canada, and I got all copies of all the information. And what happened was Captain Wallace went out to the 5,000 miles from the South Pole up the coast of Chile. So he went around the Cape of Good Hope, which is 10084 miles from the North Pole, where he went around, which is times pi is 3168.
From the South Pole.
North Pole.
North Pole.
Just sit there and get quiet.
Oh, right, okay. Right.
Dangerous, isn't it?
It is. Oh.
And so he's then sailed northwards up the coast and then turned to left, headed west along the 5,000 mile distance from the South Pole, and out approximately 5,000 miles he discovered what they called then was George III Island. He named it after George III. The reason is that he had with him a Harrison clock. Now Harrison's my grandmother, who was a Golightly, her maiden name was Harrison. So she was related to this John Harrison. The John Harrisons go back to about 837 AD when they moved. Their name was Habsburgs, and they found that the Jews were taking over, so they left and they went to England, and they changed their name to Harrison to escape the Jews who was trying to kill them. So it's Harrison was the name, and then over time become Harris or Harrison with dropping on the R's. You know, when I first went to Canada, a woman said to me about Australians, she said, "You roll your R's when you speak." I said, "No dear, only when I walk." Anyhow,
It's one of his Jesus jokes.
it's not a joke, it happened.
I know.
She was holding it at the time. So the Harrison name, the longitude committee, they wanted to find out longitude, and the reason for that was that when they go to any nations of the world that they're going to conquer, like Australia and New Zealand and so forth, they've got to know the longitude of it before they can give a record of claim. So the longitude is very difficult to determine in those days because you had to know what time it was at Greenwich. So when it was 12 noon at Greenwich, they had to have a clock that was accurate, so that anywhere in the sea that they sailed, when it was 12 noon on their clock, right, they knew what time it was in London, so therefore they could determine how many degrees they had moved around the planet, and from the longitude 0. Right. So it's all it'll ask a 5-year-old, they know all that kind of stuff. So the longitude clock committee, they had a competition, was £20,000 because that's how important it was. The French were trying to do it, and the Dutch were trying to do it, and the Spanish did it. And the one who got it first was the one who could go down and conquer all the nations in the South Pacific. So after 50 years, this John Harrison, he was very pedantic. He was making clocks out of wood, believe it or not. And some of the clocks that are in England today, built by the Harrisons, are made of wood, and they're still keeping accurate time. So anyhow, the first one was as big as a pool table, and then the next one was a little smaller. The next one was a bit smaller again, and then he had a bit of a problem. Eventually he got it down to a point where he got instead of beating 1 a second, he got it down to beating 7 times a second. So in other words, if you beat it faster, it's going to make the error less. So he finally worked it out, and he came up with a clock which is about as big as a normal dinner plate, maybe smaller. He had 2 of those. So Wallace, he sailed to Tahiti, and then from there he sailed on, and this is what's taken out of history, right? He sailed on to Easter Island. Now the Dutch were pretty accurate with their measurements, and they come down with 3 ships, and I was looking for Australia, and I missed by about 3,000 miles, not bad. So in the middle of this mist, they come across a cloud formation in the distance, and when they got closer it turned out to be Easter Island, and they thought it was Van Diemen's Land. Right.
Only
Australia.
miles out.
Right. A little bit out. So in the middle of nowhere, I mean, if you look at the Pacific Ocean, look on any atlas, or if you've got a globe, go in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and put your finger on it, and you're just about going to hit Easter Island. So Easter Island, as I said, is very, very tiny, but it's shaped like Capricorn, the constellation Capricorn. So it's this shape, like that. And on it are 2 statues that are, one is about 286 tonnes, it's 71 feet, 0.93 feet long, 71.93 feet long. So You'll find that there are, in the records on the internet, 887 statues on Easter Island. Wrong. Well, right beside the largest statue, which is 71.93.
Called Il Gigante.
Il Gigante.
Or giant.
The giant. Right beside it is another one. And it's a smaller one that weighs about 150 tonnes. But it's all been defaced and almost destroyed. And what happened was, when Wallace got there, he observed the place, and this is in 1768 that he arrived. And he goes back to England and tells them what he has discovered. And of course he's got the longitude and latitude of it. So then Cook is sent out to study the transition of Venus, which is going to occur on the 3rd of June in 1769. And he arrived, guess what, 666 days after Wallace had been there. Right? Now Wallace had secret orders, and this is quite common, I suppose, when they send people out on these expeditions, that you open the secret orders once you get there, because it is a secret. So his secret orders was to find an alternative to Australia, because the mathematicians had worked out, and astronomers, that there must be a great big lump on the bottom of the Earth to stop from tipping over. So it turns out to be Antarctica. So what happened was he did a bit of a search, and he then headed for Easter Island, because they knew pretty well where it was, because the Dutch were quite well adapted at able to give the longitude and latitude no problem.
It was the Dutch explorer in 1922 on April the 5th, which is why it was Easter Sunday.
I was going to say that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs.
So the Dutch, when they was going there with the three ships, because they're spread out, they see the clouds in the distance and they think it's Van Diemen there. And they were quite happy about that. But when they get there, they discover all these giant statues. And I read the ship's log of, what's his name? It's a Dutch name,
Jacob Rogan or something like that. Jacob Rogan, yeah. No.
I can't say that.
One of those Dutch names.
Now his father was a mathematician and astronomer, and what?
I'm going to get the name and pronounce it properly. Keep going.
I'm lost for words now. So, when they get there, one of the natives come out and was very curious. He was stark naked too. And this was offending the Dutch a little bit. He was a very staunch Christian. And he was very, very inquisitive. He was looking at the ropes and how it was made, and he was looking at the cannons and how the engravings were, and he looked at the decking of the ship. And this is all in the ship's log of the Dutch. And you got it?
Yes.
Was that right? Was it
Close. Jacob Roggeveen.
Yeah.
R-O-G-G-E-V-E-E-N.
Now, later on, he goes back to Holland and he tries to start a new religion. And of course, with the Christianity being Dutch and also been taken over by, in those times, it was taken over by the Catholic Church big time. So they had a habit of burning people at the stake. So anyhow, he didn't get off the ground with his new religion, but I haven't been able to find what the religion was all about yet. I will. But that is if I get in quick, because the Jews will get in there and they'll destroy it, right? And that's what the Jews do. When I announce these things, you go and try and find it on the internet and it's gone, right? So I want to make it very, very clear to you all that the Jews are behind everything.
Every abomination on the planet.
Every abomination. So, naturally, the internet is a vast source of information, and Wiki, of course, is Jewish. And I've been on there a few times, but I last about 20 minutes to get kicked off.
Well, no, I've got to tell this story. See, the big deal with Wiki is that you must have an outside source, a published outside source, to confirm the claim of the one that is being listed. So, on all the candidates who have been listed as those who have claimed to be Jesus, which goes back now more than 100 years or so, they've all got outside claims that you can refer to. There's a link to. So, beauty July 27th, 2015. 2015 means appearing, as in the second advent. So it was July the 27th, 2015, when we didn't have a clue. However, the world was waking up to the online news that was breaking, and that's that Mirror, the UK Mirror, picked up the Reddit comment by John Lynch's disgruntled son-in-law, who was crapping on about what he was crapping on, but the Mirror picked it up. And so another 100 online publications did running the same story about the cult leader claiming to be Jesus in Australia. But they did
luring this man away from his grandchildren.
Yes, it was all about this American man abandoning his family. They're all adults. Anyway, the expose was brilliant because they had the apostolic letter there. Anybody looking at it would go, oh my God, and be able to follow the links, etc., which of course is what happened. Now, I've completely forgotten the track that I was on, but anyway, so 2015 is the appearing. What I wanted to say was that Gabe this week has said that he hasn't been able to find any new uploads referring to Yah since 2015, because everything that we do is tagged and we're uploading all of the time, but there's been nothing new with any reference to Yah since 2015. Now, it was Anna Carter, yes, who brought my attention. Now, we had seen it before because it was Andrea Anna who found a Shroud of Turin, part of the Illuminati card game, whatever. You know, they have to claim that they're responsible for everything. But Anna Carter yesterday finds on LinkedIn the Illuminati card game card with the Shroud of Turin on it, but it's claiming Brian Leonard Golightly-Marshall. And then there's this other, I think on LinkedIn as well, claiming that Brian Leonard Golightly-Marshall is the Antichrist. Of course, we all know he's the Antichrist.
Well,
anyway,
from Christian perspective, I am.
Absolutely. Yah has always said, from the Christian perspective, he is totally the Antichrist because he condemns them all. They are all part of Judeo-Christianity, which is the abomination that makes desolate.
All Jews, right?
They have fallen for the Jew lies, and they have become part of the problem. And so, from their perspective, he wants to be regarded as the Antichrist because he is certainly against their my Jesus. You know, the blonde fairy dude who was a homosexual lover of and Caesar Borgia's son, whatever. You know, that dude. They're all praying to the image of the beast. The guy with the immaculate heart, it's the image of the beast. So
actually, from now on, all immaculate hearts should be cut in half, shouldn't they?
Yes, exactly. You've only got the left side. Well, it's the left side that's dead, it's the right side that's still going. So half a heart. Anyway, so from the Christian perspective, of course he is the Antichrist because he condemns them. Absolutely. They are the abomination that makes desolate. And Yah hates them. Does God hate? Absolutely. He hates all evil. And Christianity today has fallen to the evil of the Jews. And
the top Christian establishment are killing children. They drink their blood.
Yes, they're all part of the Jewish ritual.
There's a guy called Steele, I think it's uploaded.
Yeah, we've already uploaded it.
Okay, well, he's telling you the truth. That man should be running America. He's on about the Jews, and of course the likes of Trump, for example. He, like all his grandchildren are Jews, and he's got a son that is apparently, hasn't been confirmed, but he does seem a bit stretched.
Well, it was Robert Steele that said it's autism, and
autism.
Yeah. So anyway.
Anyhow, I guarantee you there'd be a big change if one of his kids disappeared. Right, one of the grandchildren. Right? Then you would see that man turn around like big time. Right? So, getting back to Easter Island.
Where the miracles are. Now, Trump, of course, there's been 3,000 low-rung pedophiles arrested, etc. There's been much whoop-de-doo through the ignoring of it by mainstream. However, these are low rungs on the totem pole. Shit rolls downhill. and it's amongst the Republican Party and the Democrats, and all around the globe amongst the highest echelons of this demonic society.
Unbelievable.
Easter Island?
Easter Island. Now, Wallace gets there, and then he sails back. He's got a Harrison clock, remember. So, when Cook, Lieutenant Cook, shows up, the ship that had been refurbished for him was a coal ship, and it was owned by the Pembrokes, the Earls of Pembroke. Now, the Earls of Pembroke are marshals. Their name was Marshall. And it was recommissioned and handed over on the 5th of April in 1768. It had double hull and all hemp sails and hemp ropes. So when he takes off, he's heading down in the same route. He ends up going to, which is Tahiti, and it was George III that had gone along with a man called John Green, who was the Astronomer Royal at Greenwich. And he was with Cook because not only was he an astronomer, they was going to study the transition of Venus, and they had the Harrison clock. So he was a man that went with, Green went with to see King George with John Harrison to get him paid for the amount of money that the committee had owned him, the government owned on this competition of the longitude prize. So he got the money. And but they was trying to stop not paying. But they did confiscate all these clocks. And one clock was on board the Dolphin, SS Dolphin, which was the Wallace, Captain Wallace. And then we got Lieutenant Cook. Now the reason they had Cook do it, he was a lieutenant, so he didn't go to the captain's club, did he? And therefore there was no chance of rubbing shoulders with the captains and blurting out where his next expedition would be too. And of course that was to go down to do the transition, and with John Green. Now John Green, actually they had scurvy and all sorts of problems, and when they get to Jakarta on the way back, they was very, very ill. And the same thing happened with the Wallace crew. A lot of them died. Dysentery and all sorts of things.
So Green died in Jakarta? Mm-hmm. Green died, did he?
Yes.
Right.
So there was 95 in the crew. Now there you go. What's 95?
Mm.
The 95th day of the year is what? So it is the same date, if you like, of April the 5th. So here we have the Dutch discovering in 1722. Now there was a very unusual thing happen. The solar eclipses that occur, as you know, we study them because they all lined up with prophecy. And the first one was on January the 19th, 1722, followed by another 147 days later. Now, a normal eclipse is 177 days apart, but occasionally a very rare event happens when you get a solar eclipse that's only 147 days apart. So what we do then is calculate from that, because we know it's April the 5th, so we calculate from April the 5th to another one of 147 era. Now if you've been watching what we've been doing before, we've got the pyramid shape and the capstone, and there's a little tiny blue square there, and that represents the 20th of March in 2015. So when we do the calculation from that point in time, we have 1,07000 days, and when we divide that by a lunation, we get a number which you're going to have to watch the video to see what it's all, because I've forgotten what it is now. But
3623.7. 3623. Well,
is it?
Yeah, it's thousand.
Where'd you see that? I'm only confusing you, right?
Totally. No, the point is that this tiny little dot of Easter Island, somewhere God takes the foolish things to confound the wise. It's barely a speck on the globe, truly. And the miracles contained within the measure of the island and the distances to Yah and the solar eclipse is stunning. It is absolutely mind-blowing. But it brings us around full circle, just like the globe, full circle to the previous PowerPoint, the 5-part series, the 5 parts of the 2-part series about Trump, Assad, 9/11, etc. And it did. And the solar eclipses, the 10 missing solar eclipses. And what Yah is referring to is that amongst the 1741 days
2015,
from
2000 March.
No, please let me explain this. Amongst the series of 10, the 1741, no you don't. The summit platform, November the 14th, 2012 to August the 21st, 2017. In that group, you'll remember that there is the March 20th solar eclipse where there was only 147, not 177 days from the previous October in 2014, that eclipse. So this measure from this eclipse that has occurred in 1768, where there was only 147 days between it, when measuring to the March 1722, measuring to the March 2015, you will find it's all about the last PowerPoint series, which is the espousal. Hello, the wife. But it's a slam dunk.
So take the 107000 divided by a lunation of 29.53052. I don't know why I'm telling you all this, because every 5-year-old knows it. It gives you this displacement factor of the Great Pyramid. That's what you're trying to get to, right? 3623.
The reduced base, the espousals, yes. Gigante, the weight of the Yahweh statue is 286, which is lamb. Yeah. So bottom line is, the two statues there.
Right beside it is the Asherah statue.
Yeah.
And so when Wallace went there, he goes back and he reports to the Jews that when Cook comes out on a new expedition, which was total bullshit, to study the transition of Venus, they got John Harrison's clock, and he verifies, John Harrison clock verifies the 4 points that Wallace had mentioned as being the area. In other words, you take the width of Tahiti, and then you've got the height of Tahiti and the lowest point of Tahiti, and you get 4 points, right? You make a square out of it. And that gives you an area of the same number as Gabriel the Archangel. Hello! Right? So he mentions in his ship's log, Wallace was correct longitude. Obviously, he had a Harrison clock. They don't say it, but he did. So we know by going through and reading years ago in the libraries before they got to change everything, and that's what they do. As soon as I utter it, they go and search it all out and take it into every library in the country, or the world, for that matter. So they're serious, because they know that their ass is toast. The Jews are finished. Right? I'm here, they know it, and all I've got to do is wake you people up, because you've got God in you, because you're made in the image of me, which is God. So therefore, you'll do what I can do. Once you get the idea, you'll all join together, and you have what is called a quantum, like bees swarming, right? And what happens when a bee swarm? They'll reach let's say a figure of 50,000 bees in a hive. They'll then produce another queen, and then they go out and they find another location that is sufficient in food supply, flowers, pollen, etc. And then they'll swarm together, and they have the intelligence of a German Shepherd dog. And then they locate where it is, and they figure it all out, and they send a few bees out to see where the lowest, the distances to the food and so forth. And when they're all quite happy, they go back to being little bees, and they do the 4 things that a bee does, which just goes out, picks up the pollen, comes back, and he tells the others where it is, with a little dance they do. Quite a beautiful thing, really. A little dance.
Do the dance.
All right, so human beings are like that. So when enough of you find out and tell the rest, then you're going to have a quantum effect. Well, thanks to the Jews, we have the internet. And they couldn't help themselves except try and make money off it, because this was invented by the United States military, I think.
DARPA, wasn't it?
whatever it was.
Pentagon, yeah, dark
Something
pentagon,
to do with something to do with the. So once it escaped
internal
the grasp, because the
communications.
money-hungry Jews had to make money on it, and individuals, they had like bees as well. They were like wasps, and they started making money off it, and then it just grew and grew and grew. And then next thing you got Yahoo and you got Google and all that kind of thing that's come out of it. Well, when they start altering what we already know, then that is a signal to the mind, to the soul, say, hey, wake up, look what they're doing.
Yeah. Now it's common.
Now it's all exposed. Right?
It's common knowledge, and this was Jim Stone who exposed this years ago, that within the libraries in every Western nation, the local libraries, every library within the nations, you have Jews working who are in the position of culling the books that need replacing, etc. And so what they do is they take off the shelves books of intellect and science, maths, truth, take them home for themselves, and they replace them with books that are really dumbed down, devoured, and total.
Well, we was talking about the Smithsonian the other day, how they, for years since the 30s, thousands of discoveries have been made of giants right across North America and Mexico. And what do they do with them? They take it to the Smithsonian, great old Smithsonian, American enterprise, right? No problem. So the people in charge of it destroyed all the evidence.
Yes, it's about destroying evidence.
Why?
Now,
well, they were giants in those days. That's the whole bloody point. If that is the case, that evolution goes down the drain, right?
Yes, it does. But also continuing with what Jim Stone was revealing is that in their synagogues, because
Synagogue of Satan.
he spent 2 years in the synagogue after he BS'd his way in, etc. But in their synagogues, just at their normal meetings, they make sure there are no visitors in there, and then they proceed with their order of business, and that is to
set up and destroy Christianity.
Check off a checklist of all the families who are part of the congregation, have their assignments, and it might be those within the library or those within the local hospital, wherever within the community, to infiltrate and then destroy from within.
Give you some idea, NASA, the guy died recently, which is good. His name was Cohen. He was the head of NASA. You've got the ASIO in Australia, which is basically Mossad. And a Jewish fellow was in charge of that. Still is. Right? The Prime Minister of Australia is a Jew. We go back to the greatest Prime Minister we had in Australia, Bob Hawke. Oh, g'day, mate. He's a real Aussie, right?
Yeah.
Jew.
Leader of the Labour Union.
And this friend of mine, Peter, right, he was the one that got him elected because he went out and made thousands upon thousands, give Bob the job.
Oh,
T-shirts. And Bob, he had 2 weeks, right, and he produced them, sent them all over Australia, thousands of them, because he had wealth at the time. And Bob Hawke phoned him up and thanked him for getting him elected.
My goodness.
Believe it or not.
It was soon after that, wasn't it, that he lost all of his wealth? That'd be a good reason for...
Yeah, then Peter lost all his wealth. He was a millionaire, right? So it just goes to show you the people I come across in my lifetime that are
And you just found this out recently, didn't you?
Yes. But Peter's a very smart fellow. And he was teaching how to set up computers in the late 70s, when the computers was just getting off the ground. Had he stayed there, he'd have been a very wealthy man, because they get paid a fortune these days, these professors and so forth. But he went off on his jaunt of doing things like racehorses and drugs and all sorts of stuff. But he's a very smart man, just the same. But on the other hand, he doesn't realise that the depth of Jews. So I told him all about the Jews. Oh, a lot of my friends are Jews. He said, yeah, right.
Yes, when we first met Peter, and he got over the shock of what we were telling him. Yeah. But then he took it on board, and
well, now he knows. And
now he knows. He can see it all. And that's what it's all about.
All his good friends are the Jews, and they don't want to talk about me, right?
Scales falling from people's eyes. And you've got to be able to name the elephant in the room. Neocons is the acceptable word, but we're talking about Jews. Jews are neocons, neocons are Jews, and they're all the synagogue of Satan. Anyway, with that...
With what?
Well, how about we take... it's such a lovely day today, and Artie came yesterday to mow the lawns because Joel's been away.
You want to give the people a view
Yes.
of the outside?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll open the
Or
door.
we can shut this down and add this.
How about I just turn the camera around?
Oh,
Open
you
the door.
just turn the camera on.
This is what I got to put up with.
And it is Saturday, the 13th of May.
It's not, is it?
It is the 13th of May, 5:13. Most
Okay.
important verse.
That little tree there, when we first got here, it sprang up, and
I thought it was a weed.
she thought it was a weed, and I saved it from being pulled out.
What, are we going to pull out the weed? I kept saying, what about this weed? And now.
So there's our
Weed.
little tree that's grown up. It's the size of a house now.
Oh, yes.
Let's see if I can get a
It's
bit
a
closer.
two-story house, so.
I like it. When I take photographs of the moon, you notice I always move the camera a bit closer? You ever notice that? Okay, so there's that lovely old tree out there. Whoop. I'll tell you what I'll do.
Oh, yes, we've got plenty of battery power.
I'll take it out, sorry.
Take the cord out. We've got.
We don't need it, it's got battery. So, this, what we're looking at here, this is an artificial lake. A very famous golfer invested his winnings. Cricketer, sorry. Like the worst game on the planet is cricket. You have to be totally gay to be a cricketer. Anyhow, this was all set up, this lovely place. Now the point being, it is from the solar eclipse that occurred on the 25th of January 1944, which was 8,888.8 miles to where I was born. This here house is 973 kilometres from that house, which is how many times the word Jesus is found in 942 verses. And the point I'm making is that this is 7706 miles, nautical miles, from the same solar eclipse, and that means Almighty God. So, are you still trying to get me to move, love?
Not today.
She wants to go live in Serbia now. Oh, just a second here.
What about the, as you're measuring Easter Island? Oh, there's been so many miracles this week. This is why we've been off air. Yah's been engrossed. I've just been gathering info. What has the world settled down to post strikes against Syria, etc., etc. Anyway, Yah's programs all week have been shut down. He hasn't done it, but he's come downstairs.
Like, I built this computer, and it's a tower, very, very fast, beautiful computer. And I keep it offline. And I've done all these marvellous measurements, what you'll see when we do the upload. And I felt I've come to the end. I've measured everything. So next thing, I get up in the morning and two programs, Magellan programs, was accurate within a few centimetres from measuring anything in the world. They shut down. Now, you don't, I've been using these programs for years, you just don't shut them down. You go through a process to shut them down. But on 3 days in a row, they've been shut down. Both programs. Everything else is still running, because I leave everything still running. It's not a good idea to shut your computers down, by the way.
Now,
you keep them running.
All right, but we were measuring, and you'll see in the PowerPoint when it goes up that from Easter Island to the rebirth location, the Shroud of Turin, where was that measured to? But anyway,
I'm on rebirth.
Your rebirth, okay. So it was the Shroud. So all of these miraculous numbers and sacred numbers are coming out of the measure all over the globe to do with Easter Island, and one of them was aromatic, and then that was in Greek, and then in Hebrew it was really soon, like quickly, really soon. Now I walk, oh, and the other one was itch. Now Yara's been itching for what, a week or so? Days. Itching around the ankles. You know, we've got sandflies around here and he's been itching, driving him crazy.
There's this restaurant I go to because she always insists on going for coffee, which I hate.
Decaf.
And
anyway.
They have this, down by the beaches this time of year, they get these little tiny sandflies,
Midges.
which are midge flies or whatever, and they bite you. They're like flying alligators, little tiny things.
So,
they take a piece out of you and it makes you so itchy, it's unbelievable.
Right, but one of the measures was itchy. And as soon as he found the measure, he hasn't itched since. But the same day that we found the itchy, next was this aromatic, and really soon. So I walked out into the kitchen and I was thinking about aromatic and I was thinking about his itch, and my mind went to the Dane tree in northern Queensland and the oils that they get from out of the Dane tree forest. These aromatic oils like tea tree oil, etc., that can be used for itches, because it was actually the tea tree oil that got rid of the itch when we finally clued in to use it. So now, within 20 minutes of this wonderful aromatic really soon, I go into town because days before, Yah got an SMS into his phone, and it was a really good deal on a facial, really cheap, this an hour facial, etc. And I just said, Mother's Day coming up, take it. So we made an appointment for me for 11 o'clock. So I go into town, and of course I'm lying there about to experience, as she calls it, this bliss by Jan, who is going to do the facial. And the first thing she uses are these extremely aromatic essential oils.
She said to you, are you itchy?
No, she didn't mention an itch. But I'm deep breathing in the aroma of these aromatic oils, and it was less than an hour from the time that you'd found it, which said, really soon, quickly. So the point is that we've arrived at this moment of time when, the angelic realm have just been waiting for Yah to find it's like trying to find not a needle in a haystack, it's trying to find a needle throughout the entire universe. These measures that are hidden for him to reveal. These are the road markers, the milestones, the road markers, as we're leading by his measure so that we can move forward in time and get rid of everything that offends him. Everything that offends him is cast out of the kingdom. Well, the kingdom comes to the earth, so everything that offends him has to be cast off the earth at their death. This is what awaits the Jews that call themselves Jews, who are not at the synagogue of Satan, and the Christians.
The Jews are toast.
Toast, yes. Right. So, with that, oh my goodness gracious.
Okay, Missy.
What a week. So,
Shall I switch off the camera, Missy?
yes, May the 13th, 2017, Saturday, and it's 1 Chronicles 5:13 that is the most important. It's the genetic key of the house of David.
Well, do you want to talk about that then?
No. Later, guys.
Wait a minute. A bit of a zoom in, right? Oh, a bit scary, isn't it?
Oh.